Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise. It is this lovely Monday morning. I'm Chamberlain. So,
a lovely good morning to you. I'm Kayla Megwa.
Just ignore me. I'm not here. Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome.
Okay, why are you ignoring him? Look at the skyline. I think you might find this a little more.
Very good question. Just Google it.
it means goodbye.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it means farewell.
Okay.
That's what Jipujam means. It means goodbye.
You know, I'll say this. If you live around here, I'm very sure you can't locate your house now. So, well, this is what your area looks like from above the sky. Especially, for those who have to travel by air sometimes. These are some of the sights that you see. And this is just a beautiful sight any day, anytime. You know, every time, Kayla and Chamberlain, when we bring up these pictures, what I see are those old-time picture cards, you know, those ones that you take the picture.
The postcards.
The postcards, thank you. It's just what's right there in your face, and it's just a beautiful sight any day and any time. And to realize that this is Yola. Let me also remind you, this is Nigeria. It's northern Nigeria. It's not all brown roof and dusty roads, you know, and you still see the lush green. That's to tell you that there is a lot of richness in various parts of Nigeria. Anywhere you turn, there's a beauty to behold.
Yeah, so there you go. So you can go ahead and speak to us on some of these scenarios that you have seen. But we do know that several scenarios will also be happening today. I know you always like to talk about the business part of all of these things. But interestingly, today we see that the National Association of Resident Doctors have embarked on strike. So this is a warning one-week strike. So we'll try to find out, okay, look, they had an emergency meeting last night, which entered into the early hours of today, and then they came up with that resolution, trying to call attention of government concerning, guess what, one of their kidnapped colleagues. So that's what's happening. But incidentally, yes, the IGP was briefing the other day about students of Benue State University, I think medical students as well, who were kidnapped, and eventually he said it was a collaboration between security agencies that got them released. And so the IGP spoke copiously about all of that, talking about the collaboration that they had with several security agencies and how that resulted in their release. So now the NARD has done this to call attention to this. Of course, you'll always wonder, so what were they doing all along? Did they not get enough notice about all of this? If it had to take them to go on strike to get the attention of government on this one, then it means that, look, we have to do things differently.
I don't think it's even imaginable that government is not aware of anything. I find it interesting. Maybe even, I don't know, it's unimaginable for me. It's unthinkable that you would say that government is not aware of anything. Remember that quote that's usually ascribed to former head of state, Sonia Abacha, that if any particular insecurity situation goes on for more than 24 hours, that government is involved one way or the other. The question you want to ask is which government, you know. So whether or not government is aware, I don't even indulge that thought, because there is government at every level of life in our world, in this country in particular. The DSS is in every local government that is listed in the Constitution.
Yes. The police is everywhere.
The police is everywhere. So what is it that they don't know? So
I mean, when I think about the medical students, they were going for a medical conference, Chamberlain. They were going. It was part of ways to better themselves. You know that same people have stayed talking about, say, Nigeria eats it young. You know, these were young people who were trying to make themselves better. So they were going for a medical conference in Enugu. And then this happened to them. You know, I know that they've been released. Everyone is excited. We're happy to see them back. But what can be done to make things safer? So we don't even have the kidnappings in the first place. And like you said, there's presence of the military, the police, Secret Service. They're everywhere. If they're looking for you, Ayo, no matter where you hide in the world, they'll find you. That's how good they are. So what is going on? How is this happening? And now we're having children having to face this. It's something that really needs to be addressed immediately.
Well, it's knocks and kudos for security agencies as well this morning, because harassment of journalists for the
that's another story.
We need to point this out. So even though the DSS says that it was on the request of another sister agency, that the former BBC Pidgin editor was detained while he arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, several hours, and then released. So newsmen tried to get across to him. Initially, the DSS were not aware, but eventually they then spoke up and subsequently released him. So it raises a lot of questions about all of these things, because, look, this comes across, as we have written it, tagged it, harassment of journalists. Because, look, the laws are clearly stated. If anyone feels strongly about whatever publication that the journalist or whatever is out there, yes, if you feel you've been defamed, there are processes to all of these things. You resort to the courts. And because the law, the 1999 Constitution for which this country upholds or practices, guarantees those functions of journalists. And so when you arrest and detain them for several hours, even though you may raise a thing or two, but if it has to do with the profession, not that there's a theft, criminal act somewhere, the laws are clearly stated. So I just wonder, to what intent exactly might that arrest have been? Because that is the way it comes across. Because if certain things are published and then you invite them based on that publication, in some cases, they're detained for days, which is clearly against the laws. So, look, I think they should know by now that journalists will not cow to some of these tactics as they read, because if there's anything that government doesn't want people to know, that is news. That is something people should zero in.
Another thing that really makes this very worrying is the silence. You know, when we try to find out from the DSS what's going on, or some kind of information as to why this is happening. Mr. Shoyinka, of course, is pretty popular in the media space. And very importantly, the fact that this was done and no one said anything about it. It's the conversation. We need to understand what has happened. There's a big fear that Nigeria's civic space is being shrunk, and that it's being shrunk on purpose. So there's lots of paranoia, even if someone is invited for legitimate reasons. There's always that thing where the civil society and, of course, Nigerians say, oh, something is happening. They're trying to... It's because of the lack of communication. And, you know, opening up to the people, let people understand what's going on. That silence and makes everyone wonder, is he going to disappear? And we're not going to hear from him again. So better communication from security agencies when these sorts of things happen, to stop the paranoia and all the speculations online.
All I would say to that is everyone in the security service is a Nigerian. And you know what you're supposed to do at any given time. So if you try to silence the people, trust me, the reason why there is fake news is because there is no news. And guess what? Where there is a vacuum, trust me, what's it called? Nature abhors vacuum. It shall be filled. Oh, yeah. Whether it is with what you want or with what you don't want. So let's be careful about that. Well, Chamberlain, you mentioned news. Business news. This morning, this business morning on Sunrise Daily is going to be featuring John McQuarrie, my colleague, who will be talking about executing proposed tax reforms. before that, how about we take you through some of the papers this morning?
There are diverse headlines on the front pages of the papers this morning. Let's begin with the Daily Independent newspaper. Battle for 130-year-old First Bank may impact its fortunes, as from investors. Boardroom squabble threatens 350 billion naira recapitalization plan. Shareholders ask parties to sheath sword differ on CBN's role. Front page of the Guardian newspaper has this one. FX execution hitches threaten food waiver policy as farmers kick. The details of that one you'll find on page 6 of the paper today. The front page of Daily Trust has this one. Days after killing Emir, bandits abduct over 150 in Gupir. You'll find details of that story on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning. The Daily Times newspaper has Nigeria sitting on ticking time bomb, Catholic bishops. That story is on page 2. See the future of Nigeria dependent on how challenges bedeviling her are tackled. Check the details on the inside pages. That picture you see on the front page is of submerged houses in Adamawa State, and this happened on Saturday. The front page of the Nigerian News Direct has, you're adopting sham subsidy regime to fund your 2027 ambitions. Article to FG urges FG to approve share Renaissance mobile supply deal. That story is on page 21. Blueprint, how 2 officers were killed in Shiite police clash in Abuja. Police vehicles set on fire. Check the details on the inside pages of the paper. The Nigerian Observer has this one. Foreign transactions in Nigerian equities surge by 222% to 589 billion naira as bank recapitalization set to boost foreign interest. The front page of the Abuja Inquirer has this one. Bloody Sunday in Abuja. 2 police officers killed, 3 seriously injured, several Shiites unaccounted for. Patrol vans set ablaze, residents in uneasy calm. Oh, sad one, definitely. Front page of the New Telegraph has this one. Stop looting our national treasury. Konjo-Iweala tells political office holders. Others, that story is on page 2, and it's about the 2024 NBA confab. The Nigerian Tribune, end bad governance protests. Court freezes 32 bank accounts. What does that mean? Details on page 4. And the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning has this one. Executive order on medicaments. FG yet to implement 2 months after. And look at the riders. FG is still working on implementation framework 2 months after, according to Minister. Delay not worth it. People are dying. Oladigbolu. Government must progressively intervene in high tariffs, according to Akintayo. Implementation details must be properly worked out, as from Ifeanyi. Details of who said what on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. These are some of the papers we have for you today.
Well, yeah, I don't know which one, would be my pick this morning. I have to be honest.
After picking all of them.
After picking all of them, I don't know the one to stand that would stand out first. But I can't remonstrate the issue of food any day, anytime. It was one of those headlines I was talking about, food and all that. I don't remember which one it is. But if you look at the front page of the New Telegraph this morning, the fact that she spoke in front of the political office holders is a very, very strong one for me. He told them to their faces, stop looting our national treasure, national treasury. Incidentally, the front page, yesterday, of course, Channels TV took that story live. And guess what? One of the bit that I caught is the part where the governor of Lagos State was speaking, and he was actually responding in a way to what Dr. Konjo-Iweala was saying. Look, we are ready. We're ready for whatever it is that you want us to take on. And he was asking everyone else in the room whether they were ready. And they were saying, look, at the end of the day, it's not just the political leaders, it's us as a people. And many times, it's easier for us to point fingers at someone who is doing something wrong. So how about we also look in the mirror and say, what exactly it is, that we're supposed to do that we aren't doing? There is this interesting angle to this conversation. And that angle, Kayla, is most of the time when we say, okay, something is wrong, question you want to ask is, who is responsible for it? And as I often say, the people who are in government today were not in government 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So how come we're still dealing with the same issues we're dealing with 40 years ago?
All right. You know, someone said recently, if someone explains Nigeria to you and you understand it, they didn't explain it to you well. Let's take a look at this Nigeria. And this one happened in my city, Abuja. And there's something that needs to be understood. From this Nigeria this morning, Shiites' bloody day in Abuja claims the lives of 2 police officers. Last time, Josephine Ade spoke about this. 3 police officers were in serious condition. And it's another story. This is something that we grew up watching. These Shiite protests, you know. But they're not, usually they weren't violent. You know, they used to just be processions. They weren't protests. They were processions. Well, apparently on page 6 of this day newspaper, they give us the details of what happened.
This Nigeria.
Yes, on this
It's actually
Nigeria.
on the front page of Abuja Inquirer as well.
Oh, so quite a number of people are talking about this because of how important it is. Channels TV has some history with this sort of situation, so it's very personal to us. But some way to ensure that this doesn't happen again. 2 police officers have died. They say the police are saying that this attack was unprovoked. Said they attacked the police post, killed 2 of their policemen, injured 3 very critically, you know, and many arrests have been done. Shiites have been doing these protests for many years, these processions, rather, for many years. There have been so many fears over the years that, you know, during the processions, it can be hijacked. Someone could wear a bomb and go into the place. So many people have been saying, look, maybe for your protection, even as the people doing these processions, maybe limited to particular spaces, you know, and things like that. But, you know, very, very sad story that happened. And yes, I'm seeing that from the Abuja Inquirer as well. Bloody Sunday in Abuja, but something needs to be done to be, maybe the leadership of the Shiite movement and the police, maybe they need to have a meeting or a conversation as to how this can be done. They have the right to express themselves. They have the right to do their processions. They have the right to believe whatever they want to believe. But then the safety, so it doesn't get to where we have clashes and people die. And our condolences, really, with the officers, the families of the officers who lost their lives. The police do a fantastic job, and this was uncalled for. Really sad story there.
All right, so there you go, guys. We'll just take a moment, and then we'll be back to you all. So stay on with us. All right, yes, indeed, guys. I mean, it's 1 year since the ministers were appointed, when they took positions, assumed office. And of course, you know, lots of expectations for those responsibilities that they were saddled with. And so we caught up with the Minister of State for Petroleum, Gas, as you've seen there, Mr. Kwekwe, and asked him in terms of what has happened to that ministry so far in 1 year. And Nigerians feel the pulse. Do they even know what's going on? What's going on? What do we expect? So we started out by asking him all of those questions. For instance, I mean, it's 1 year. Why should the president keep you sitting in that seat? What have you done exactly? So these are some of the issues we took up with him. That's how it started.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by, first and foremost, expressing my sincere thanks to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for appointing me as his minister to superintend over the affairs of Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Gas. Yeah, it's been a nice one, getting me into the field and reposing in me the responsibility of tracking the gas process in the country. You know, before now, gas was not all that considered, but under his administration, he decided to focus on gas. So it's been a very nice one interacting with the industry players and intimating with them and then getting the right thing to do to serve our people. So I want to say it's been a nice one.
Well, on the day of resumption of office for you, in terms of setting out the goals, you appear to have hit the ground running by outlining all of those. And of course, there still is a lot of expectations for you on the part of Nigerians. Can you say you've met the goals that you set for yourself?
Yeah, meeting the goals that I've set for myself at the inception is meeting the goals of Mr. President. Like I said, CNG is a new entrant into energy space in Nigeria. It wasn't there. Now that he has declared gas as a transition fuel and focusing on the CNG to make sure we mitigate the transport sector and make it easy for us. I want to believe we have driven so smoothly, though we still have a lot to do. And in case of encouraging gas projects, we have been trying equally to commission some projects and relate with investors to invest in that sector, because actually the prosperity of Nigeria today depends on gas. So I think we've done a lot in that sector. So what I will expect is to hear from the public how far we have gone, as to be encouraged to do more.
If you could shed a little more light on the CNG.
Yes.
There are several questions, I know you know, in terms of capacity, production, being consistent, and availability of that program. So just shed a little more light in terms of the expectations of Nigerians. What is it that they can expect now and then they can actually get now concerning where you are with the CNG project?
All right, thank you very much. At the moment, like I said, CNG is a new entrant into the energy space. What Nigerians expect is to have CNG at every part of this country, but it is not all that possible. What I want them to expect is within the area of Abuja, maybe Lagos, Kogi, Ogun State, and some other parts like that will have it available. But beyond that, we are trying to make sure we have service stations across the nations. So for now, we are looking at bringing in or converting all the vehicles, about 1 million, within the next 2-3 years, so that it will mitigate the transport fares that we're having in the country. So I want Nigerians to be patient with us. It is the right way to go and the way to serve this nation, because when we talk about CNG, we talk about reduced emission, cleaner energy source, and it is very cheap. So Nigerians should expect the federal government and private sector trying to, because we know the cost of the conversion kits are on the high side, but we try to subsidize it at the federal government level, as well as encouraging private investors to key into it and mitigate this aspect of it.
I'm still going to come back to that CNG, but in terms of availability and abundance of gas resources in the country, you know, they always talk about we have CNG, then LPG, and so LPG, of course, cooking gas. People ask questions about the pricing. It's when they're not sure what to expect tomorrow. So what are you doing to address the concerns of those who feel the price of cooking gas keeps going up and something needs to be done about it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chamberlain. I want to believe that you know that the price has come down from what it was a few months ago before now. When I got that concern, the federal government was equally concerned about it. I decided to reach out to producers through the regulator, NMDPRA, that we should call them to a table. We had a meeting and let us talk on how we are going to reduce the price. For now, in LNG, all the production of LPG is circulated in country, but some of the private investors exported their own. So I had a meeting with them and asked them they shouldn't export LPG any longer. Let it be domesticated. The other ones, they can export it. So we are working on that. That is why you have seen the reduction in the price. And of course, having new investors into the area will increase the LPG production, which will drastically reduce the price equally. So here again, I ask Nigerians to be patient with us. Gas was not given this traction before, but now with the interest that we are showing in gas and trying to bring in investors in that sector, is going to be a better thing for us tomorrow.
So with this initiative that you're working on, yourself and the team, is this something that is going to be institutionalized? Do we expect that even when you're in office 5, 10, 15 years, this measure will always be there to ensure that the prices don't just get jacked up by any group whatsoever?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is going to be institutionalized because when we stabilize the entire thing, and of course I talked about the investors coming in, the regulators are there. When we put it in the correct perspective, there will be no need to increase the price. And of course, if we make sure that there is domestication of LPG within the country, all producers of LPG will be used here, like Chevron, Mobil. They have a different computation, but we are trying to bring in blending plants to make sure they give us the 2080, propane 20, butane 80 that is used for our own country, because that one is safer. Butane has a capability of stabilizing that of propane, even though it is lighter than air. So it's going to be stable.
In terms of those investments that you spoke about, is the team looking at any price range probably in the future? Because if investors come in, should we expect that the prices will go further down, or what is the mindset of the team?
When you have a higher supply, and then the demand is lower than the supply, for sure the price will come down. So
are we expecting any investors in that area in terms of maybe more investors, and when? What do you see happening?
We are working towards that. That is why the president has put on some policies and to encourage gas production. It wasn't like that yesterday, but today with those policies, gas production is going to be given the enough impetus or encouragement or incentive, as you may call it. And so investors are coming in. That is why I go out from time to time. Even the president goes out from time to time to engage them so that they can come and invest in our gas. You are aware that we have abundant gas supply in our country, Nigeria, up to 208 trillion cubic feet untapped. So we need to tap it and make use of it to better the lives of our people in our country, and of course export the rest for revenue generation.
Let me get back to CNG a bit more. Lagos, Ogun, some incidents that occurred there raised questions for people. They just thought, they hope that the regulators have this spot on, such that when CNG does come in, safety should be paramount. I mean, there are people who naturally wouldn't want any gas cylinder, let alone in their own car that they'll be driving, even though it's compressed. So for those who are concerned about safety of CNG and regulators doing their jobs, what would you tell them?
Yes, I've charged regulators to ensure safety is maintained at a very high level. Because this CNG that is coming in, people may be talking, oh, gas, it explodes here and there. But that is not the issue. Gas is equally very more important and safer, cleaner than any other means. You know, gas is lighter than air, like CNG is lighter than air. In terms of accident, why it is very, very advisable to go this way, it explodes, it goes into the air. Unlike other fuels, which will not go into the air like that, it will cause damage here and there. So we have engaged the regulators, and they are doing their job in terms of issuing license to those that they have seen to have observed all the necessary precautions and measures to safety.
Speaking about gas supply still, the multi-billion-dollar OB3, Ajaokuta, Kaduna, Kano, AKK gas pipeline infrastructure were designed to boost gas supply in the corridors. And then, of course, upon assumption of office, you detour some of those areas. Now, the question then is, Nigerians like to know, what exactly should they expect?
Yeah, thank you once again here. I am really impressed with what I have seen in that sector with my visitation to like the OB3, Obiafon, Obricom, Oben. I've been there twice. The first time I went there, I was given a promise, a target date, but they couldn't make it. I went the second time. What I've seen there is there is a remarkable improvement. I wouldn't want to give Nigerians a fixed date, but I can assure you for OB3, the last quarter of this year, we will see the completion of that project because it is very, very important. And of course, for linking up the gas from the eastern part and the western part, which of course will send enough volumes into the AKK gas pipeline, is going to be completed within the fourth quarter of this year. On the AKK, is equally a wonderful project, and to carry the gas from the southern part of the country to the northern part. They are doing very well. In June, I was there the second time. It was about 60-something% as at when I went there. But as at yesterday, when I find out from NNPC, they have gotten up to 76%. And I'm looking at the completion of that project in the first quarter of 2025.
But you know, Nigerians will always want to find out functionality. They need a time frame so they can plan and expect certain things, because people, when they can plan with time and schedule, it helps things better, as opposed to leaving it vague. Yeah. So what if they say, look, we have to expect some date or time frame of its functioning coming on stream?
Yes, that is why I said that for OB3, the fourth quarter of this year, 2024, it will be completed. Then for AKK, first quarter of 2025.
Okay, I'm also looking at this Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline project, which targets the transportation of gas from Nigeria for sales in Europe. That's also under your supervision, your ministry. Now, during the president's visit to Equatorial Guinea, he spoke a lot about this Gulf of Guinea gas pipeline project. Could you shed more light on this? When the president spoke about it, people need breakdown in terms of what exactly is Nigeria going to do, what do we get in return?
Yeah, for Equatorial Guinea, it's a nice project, collaboration between Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea. They have the facility, like the Ponta Europa LNG. It is a 3-in-1 project. You have the methanol and the power plant, we call it, the gas plant, which will take gas from Nigeria to Equatorial Guinea. And it will cover the distance of about 180 kilometers to 200 from the gas source from Nigeria. It will bring about revenue. When the gas is processed there, it will be exported for revenue purposes. And so it is, to me, is a fine project that Nigeria has gone into, which will bring about the collaboration between the two countries. On the Morocco gas pipeline, to continue with the Equatorial Guinea, NNPC, they are engaging with Sonagas. NNPC is for Nigeria, Sonagas is for Equatorial Guinea, to finish out on the commercial aspect of it, so that by 2027 we have the two things getting through to the benefit of both countries. On the Equatorial, on Morocco gas pipelines, we are equally engaging them through NNPC. And I think by 2024, last quarter, the FID will be taken on that project, and other engagement has been going on. The latest information I had is that I'm likely to go back to Morocco to meet my counterpart there, and with the GCO and the operators of the gas project, or oil and gas project in Morocco, to find out and then agree on certain terms so that the project will continue. But it is a must-do project for Nigeria and Morocco.
So is this going to be government-driven? How much of government involvement is it going to be in terms of having the private sector? Are they going to drive it? I mean, the private sector now.
Yeah, you know, NNPC is a limited liability company. They are representing the country. And so it is going to be in that arrangement, the government company interfacing with that of Morocco. No.
Nigeria is signatory to several treaties. I mean, you talk about green energy, clean energy, the climate, several summits, COP29 and the likes of it. So how is your ministry prepared in assisting the government to meet some of these targets?
All right. This is all about reducing gas emission in the country. We are trying as a ministry, and we have parastatals that are vested with responsibilities of regulating the various oil companies in the country. We are working seriously to reduce gas flaring. Last year, I was with NNPC Total platforms. They have reduced their gas flaring to zero, which is as a result of the policy that has been put in place. And of course, NUPRC, they have set a target, and we have what we call the gas commercialization program, where flex site has been issued out to some companies to take advantage of the flare gas and convert it into commercial use. And so these are measures geared towards reducing the emission and gas flaring in the country, and of course to meet up with what we are expected at those treaties.
Well, you know, at the root of the country's electricity supply problem is gas.
Yeah.
And of course, if I can't get power, I'll be angry with government. The same thing with several other people. Your ministry is responsible for gas. So what are you doing specifically? How are you addressing this?
Thank you very much. Once again, we are not relenting in trying to drive the sector. When I came in, there was about 13 years legacy debt that the gas producers were owed. I went into action, and we prepared a platform, a program to mitigate this payment. I got the approval of Mr. President for the legacy debt to be structured so that they will be paid off. And today, I can tell you that those producers, they are on producing. When we resume, power level was at about maybe 4 kilowatts. But today, I can tell you that it has improved to 5 point something kilowatts in the country, which is an improvement. So we are doing well in the gas sector to make sure we supply gas to Gencos to drive that project. And recently, as at yesterday, I had a meeting with the EVP Gas regarding there is a gas plant in the Maiduguri and another one in the Delta State. We are trying to make sure everything is finalized so that gas will be supplied to those power plants to add value to the power sector in our country. So my ministry is equally interfacing with the Ministry of Power to develop more ways of improving the power sector at least to 6,000 megawatts.
Is there any time frame from what you see on ground? What should we expect?
You know, gas production is not something you just move into and get it right. It's not like stepping into a supermarket and you pick out something. We are programming. So, but we believe with what we have put on ground, before the end of this year, we'll live up to 6,000 megawatts, as I've said.
You know, the gas that, lots of people had access to, largely associated gas. You know, and so they kept on asking questions. Despite the huge gas reserves we have in this country, can you tell us, when will that narrative change? That we will de-emphasize associated gas and go for non-associated gas, deliberate attempt, so that we can maximize the benefit, the huge resources that we have in this country.
We are on course. on that. It is all about involving our investors in the sector. Currently, it is 50-50. And what we are having is 50-50. You talk about the 209 trillion cubic feet. 50% of it is associated and 50% is non-associated. And what we are having today is in the same measure. However, we are moving into the deep waters. That is when you hear all these international companies divesting into the deep water. It is to develop and get us the gas that are reserved in that sector and make good use of it.
There are several investors who, maybe thinking about doing several things, including industrial gas estates or even property developers. Is your ministry, is it part of the investment you're looking towards? Because if they wanted to get into that field, what should they expect from your ministry?
Yeah, you see, my ministry is all about policy making. And then we have the regulators, like the private sector that want to go into that sector. We will allow them to interface with the regulators so that they will live up to or supply all the necessary things, the licensing and everything that is needed in that sector. Ours is to make sure we make business meaningful and you obtain the returns in your own investment.
1 year into office, several people might think, well, what has the Minister of Gas even achieved? So are there any things you outlined that have achieved this for those who may not know?
Thank you very much. I want to say that we have done a lot. In the course of answering the question that you have asked me, I think I've listed some of the projects of some of the achievements that we have done in the past. In the first place, when I came in, there was a 10-year disagreement between methanol, brass methanol project in Bayelsa. I've been able to mitigate between the gas suppliers to move forward and then ensure the gas sales and purchase agreement is signed for that project to kickstart. That's the big achievement, which will take about $3 billion dollars investment. Then we've been able to equally resolve what I said earlier about the legacy debt, which has been on for 13 years. That has been resolved, and gas producers are happy to go into gas production, which will give us sufficient gas to drive the power sector and drive other sectors that need gas. And then on the MDGIF fund that I'm the chairman, we have processed about 8 companies that we are going to release funds to that will help in providing infrastructure, gas infrastructure across the length and breadth of the nation, and we continue to do that. We'll talk about the commissioning of annual gas processing plant and the 23.3 36-inch annual OB3 gas pipeline, and that Mr. President commissioned a few months ago in Delta and then Imo State. And I've equally commissioned the 3.1 million metric ton standard cubic feet for CNG by a private sector, the Tetraco in Ogun State. And in collaboration with Decade of Gas, we are releasing free cylinders to women and youth to encourage them into the clean cooking, because we have seen the dangers that cooking with firewood, kerosene has done to our people. So we are trying. And regarding the OB3 equally, which I told you, when I came in, OB3 and AKK, they were at a lower level. But today, one can say that, yes, within this year, in the fourth quarter, OB3 will be completed, AKK will be completed in the first quarter, and this will add value to the gas sector in the infrastructure area. And this will bring about more production of gas, because without OB3 and AKK, any production within the Niger Delta will not go anywhere. And since we don't have storage, if you don't have this project like this, it will disencourage people from coming into. So I see boost in the production of gas with the completion of these two projects that have gotten to that advanced state. So we have tried in our own little way. It is left for you in the public sector and the media circle to write to us, yes, you have done well or you have not done well, and you can suggest areas that we can do to improve. We are here to serve. And in line with the provision of Mr. President giving a direction to improve the gas production in the country, I will try my best to make sure I add value and give value to what the responsibility that I've been saddled with.
Let's wind down with this one. I mean, we hear sometimes government says we're giving palliatives. Some people in the States say, look, we haven't seen anything, we didn't receive as much. You've talked about distribution of free cylinders to women and youths.
Yeah.
How do they access it so that people don't come up tomorrow and say, look, we didn't get anything, we didn't see it anywhere? How do they get it?
Yeah, that is done under the decade of gas. It is not politics based. We have a consultant that we engage to source for people. When we get to a particular state, they will source for people that really need. I don't know how they go about it, but the one that we did here in Abuja, it was wonderful because I was there. I saw the caliber of person that came out, and I was impressed that it wasn't the rich people that came out to benefit from it. Next week, I'm going to Lagos. We are following up with Lagos and Akwa Ibom. So far, I am impressed with what I have seen in that sector. So the distribution has not been biased in any way.
Honourable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Mr. Ekpegbego, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain. I appreciate, and I think we will have more time to be talking and to let our people in the country to know that the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Gas, is working to serve Nigerians and serve and add value to the gas that God has endowed us with. Thank you very much.
So there you go, the interview with the Minister of Petroleum Resources, Gas. So Nigeria having this 206.5 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves in the country. Can we still be complaining about availability of, well, whether it's LPG, cooking gas, CNG, which we want to, but the challenge with that is the conversion. So quite a number of things that the ministry has got up on the table and what they need to do such that you and I can indeed leverage on the huge reserves that we've got, guys.
You know, one of the things that stands out for me in all that he's talked about is the decade of gas. I think we're probably in the second decade now, or even the third, because this whole conversation started in 2021. And my mind always goes, Chamberlain, you know this, I always refer to that economic sustainability plan of 2021, I think. Integral to that plan is the gas transition. And I find it very interesting that this particular conversation you had with the Honorable Minister of Petroleum in the gas sector, that at least we are doing something about it. The question that I'm asking, and I'm glad that he also made the promise that at the end of the interview that we should have more time to tell people what's going on. It's the ownership for me. It's the ownership of the Nigerian. And people can only own what they know. People can only they can only partner with government to the extent of the awareness that they have. These gas pipelines that you talked about, first of all, we have the reserves. Then we ought to find a way to pad them all over the place in a way that we're not flaring them. I am aware there's a good number of people in the energy sector who complained for decades about our gas flaring. and how that we wasted all of that for so many years. Okay, let's hope that we have quote-unquote repented. We're no longer flaring the way, finding a way to make good use of them. Also, add that to the fact that it's not just one type of gas that we have. There's LPG, there's LNG, there's CNG, there's butane, there's all kinds of gas, you know. The president said part of his campaigns, look, he wants to compete in the gas space. Thankfully, he has that, you know. I mean, his head is screwed right in that direction, some will say. After all, he's from that sector, the petroleum sector himself. So the question is, how much of these are people aware of in order for them to be able to take ownership of it? Kayla, you talked about communication the other time. That's what it all comes to.
I mean, when it comes to this sector, oil, gas, the communication and accountability mechanisms necessary for people to know what they're doing and how what they're doing impacts on them personally is a communication that hasn't been done. So in many ways, people look at this sector as it's just it's murky. It feels like swimming in mud because you're not quite sure what's going on.
Or where to put your foot.
Where to put your foot. Why do I not have gas? Why is the cost of gas expensive this month? What kind of, they said there's something called CNG. We have to think about the Nigerian when we do these things, you know. There's something called CNG, supposed to be lighter than air, it's cheaper. Okay, how do I get it? What do I do? Where are the stations? I spoke recently with people who do public transportation with CNG cars in Abuja. And one of the major things that they said was, we don't have refill stations. We don't have. The guy is suffering. He didn't hide it. Like, look, we're going through a lot. We want to be able to do this. It's cheaper, it's more sustainable, it's better for our people. But these are the challenges that we are facing. But listen to that interview. There's a lot of other things that came to my mind, apart from this communication bit. Opportunities in the gas sector. And working with subnationals. They had a summit not too long ago. And that was one of the things that they talked about. It was a summit that had all the gas heads, so to speak, across Africa. And they held here in Abuja. And of course, it was in line with what the president said. His head is screwed towards using gas as something that empowers the people. We have a massive energy poverty situation in Nigeria. Every single bit of information, every single opportunity helps. Now, after that summit, lovely as it was, what are the actions that have happened afterwards? And how can the Nigerian, Chamberlain, the Nigerian say, this has benefited me? Because if you're walking and there's no one walking behind you, and you call yourself a leader, so you're taking a walk. You're not a leader.
I'm just strolling.
You're taking a stroll in the dark, or you're winking in the dark. No one knows what you're doing. Absolutely. You have to be able to bring it really granular to the Nigerian people, so that as a Nigerian, especially as a woman, I use gas a lot. So we can say, this has affected me personally.
Add that to the benefits it brings to the micro, small, and medium enterprises. All over the world, everyone knows that every economy is practically run 60 to 70% of the way by the micro, small, and medium enterprises. You take down the cost of energy that they have to do business with, you have taken down the price of that product at the end of the day. And who is going to benefit? The general public. And don't forget that they are an input-output sector of every economy. So while the macroeconomics, the big organizations are doing whatever it is that they need to do, it's just micro, small, and medium enterprises that give them the supply. So you cut down the cost of their energy, you've cut down significantly. And gas certainly is one way to go.
You know, guys, well said. I mean, the data published by MBS some time ago, where they did say that price of cooking gas, you know, it was 12.5 kg, for instance, basic one. It went up by 28.33% in a month, from 11,735 naira in January to over 15,000 naira in February. So, and then you see that same trend, which was part of what we kept on asking him. So why is it that this price it doesn't appear to be as if there's some sort of standardized regulation.
Like a benchmark.
Yeah, you know what to expect.
Yeah.
You go there tomorrow, it's up.
It's up. You go tomorrow, it's down. Yes.
But exactly, that's what we're asking about, institutionalizing some of these policies of government. And, well,
is it a problem? My apologies, Chamberlain. Is it a problem of institutionalizing or Nigerianizing? Can we begin from there? I hear that, you know, petroleum is it's an international product, and consequently it has to be priced internationally. Excuse me, I don't spend international currency here, and this product is right here in Nigeria. Please help me understand what's going on here.
Well, there are yet several issues, really. Himself and the Minister of Petroleum Resources, Senator Heineken, both of them, they're real issues that they need to address. And yes, how it concerns you and I. The CNG, look, the challenge with that CNG is, you know how much the conversion kit is?
Exactly.
It's not much, just 400,000.
Yes. Thank you.
So please address your emails and questions to one Mr. Akimbo, I'm expecting to hear from you. Please talk to him. Well, business money comes up now.
A very hearty laughter now from Chamberlain and Co. And that conversation about the CNG and all of that. And I hear Ayo say you don't spend foreign currency, but guess what? These are global commodities, so that means that they are affected, just like crude. Nigeria sells in dollar, buy in dollar. So these are global commodities, and because we are part of OPEC and other associations and bodies, then we have to stick to it. But anyways, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do about 30 minutes of business and head back to the guys who are having a great laughter right there. We start from the global space. Oil prices extended gains on Monday on fears of a major spillover in fighting from Gaza conflict into the Middle East that could disrupt regional oil supplies while approaching U.S. interest rate cuts that are slated for September lifted the global economic and fuel demand outlook. We'll keep our eyes on the numbers. So nice green for a Monday morning, and hopefully it will stay that way. Well, not so hopefully, because it means that there'll be some things wrong. So it's up this morning 0.7% at $79.58 a barrel. WTI of the United States, $75.40 a barrel. That's up even further, 0.75%. Now, in one of the biggest clashes in more than 10 months of border warfare, Hezbollah fired hundreds of rockets and drones into Israel. That happened on Sunday, as Israeli military said that it struck Lebanon with around 100 jets to thwart a larger attack. The clash raises fears that Gaza conflict risk morphing into a regional conflagration that could draw in Hezbollah's backer, Iran, and Israel's main ally, the United States. So this is why we see that green there. Fears bring increase in the price of oil. Now let's come back home and look at our currency, the Naira. This is for Friday's close. A positive sentiment we saw at the close of trade for the currency on Friday. So we see that on NAFEM, the Naira gained more than 1%. I think Anita has conversations around that for Business Incorporated at 1 p.m. Let's find out the driver of that, even though we see that the reserve dropped at the close of transactions last week. But the Naira closed at 1,517 Naira, 14 kobo, after it opened at 1,586 Naira, 11 kobo. This is for Friday. NAFEX, we saw a drop, 0.08, so not so marginal though. 1,596 Naira, 85 kobo. That's what it opened with on Friday, but closed at 1,598 Naira, 7 kobo. But you know, we keep our eyes on NAFEM. That's where you have major transactions for the currency. And I was just talking about our reserve. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve declined, and for the third consecutive week, as the gross reserves level weakened by $63.50 million week on week to $36.44 billion. That's our reserve, $36.44 billion. That's our reserve as of August 22. The latest drop in the country's external buffers, which comes despite the CBN's FX retail auction, is largely to persistent demand pressures and cost the Naira to trade with high volatility during the week. The external reserves have recorded a marginal decline of 1.16%. That's about $430 million in the last 2 weeks since the central bank reintroduced the retail Dutch auction into the FX market. Now, let's talk about reforms. About a year ago, the president did form that Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms, headed by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, and we've seen their proposals. In fact, some of them have already been being implemented. Let's keep our eyes on some of them. Now, there's the withholding tax, exempting small businesses from that. That has already been put into announcement, and hopefully it's being implemented as we speak. Then the consolidation of over 60 taxes and levies into 8. Mr. Oyedele has been telling us that even though we have about 60 taxes, you barely have revenue from that getting to the government's coffers. So that's why they said they want to streamline it to effective 8. Identification of high-yielding tax sources, and then proposed constitutional amendment to limit tax burden on to single-digit percentage. Let's find out how far they've done with implementation of this, and we're doing that with the head of that committee, Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, joins us virtually from Abuja. Mr. Oyedele, good morning, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ini, for having me.
Great. So what's the latest now? We do know about the withholding tax. We do know about the import duties being suspended for 150 days, and hopefully that's being implemented, even though, anyway, we'll get to that. But what's the latest? What's updates on the proposals, especially when we look at the proposed constitutional amendment that you want to limit tax to single digit?
Thank you very much. So, yes, like you rightly said in your introductions, there's quite a lot of reforms that we are working on. And as we speak, there are different stages of implementation. Some of them have been signed, like a couple of the executive orders, including the ones on waivers of duties and VAT on food, pharmaceutical, agri inputs, and so on and so forth. We also have the withholding tax regulation, which has been signed by the Honorable Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, because based on the law, that regulation is meant to be signed by the Finance Minister. So we're just finalizing the process of publishing that in the official gazette, that's the government gazette. As recent as even yesterday, we're still doing the final work on this along with Ministry of Justice, and then the publication in the official gazette is with Ministry of Information, and even this last weekend as well, we were with the Lagos State government, because some of our reforms also border on sub-national. So we had a retreat the whole of Saturday, spending time on Sunday as well. We have sent about 10 amendments to the Constitution to the National Assembly, and that includes the one you mentioned in your introduction regarding limiting the number of taxes that individuals and businesses have to pay. We feel if we can put this in the Constitution, then we'll put that problem behind us for good, forever, so that nobody will come and reverse it. We also have a few other interventions we've been able to address. Some of that include trying to create a harmonized list of taxes. Currently, we have a law that we call approved levies and taxes collectible by federal, state, and local government, which is over 60. We have now drafted a law to replace that with the total number of taxes being under 10, which is a single digit. We've also had, very interesting engagement and development around the national fiscal policy. So as we speak now, we have a national fiscal policy that has gone through all the engagements with sub-national, with private sector, with the public, with the media, analysts, and the general public. We're just waiting now the final stages for Mr. President to sign, which we are hoping will happen in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And once that document is signed, it sets the frame for our policy around taxation and more broadly revenue generation. So you don't put burden on the vulnerable people, you support businesses to grow, you don't tax investment and capital, and so on and so forth. And then we have the policy that focuses on spending. How do you prioritize your spending so that you are spending where it will matter most to the people, given the level of multidimensional poverty we have in the country? So what is the priority of spending? What process should you go through? Ensuring there is citizens' participation, ensuring that there is the quality and efficiency of spending and accountability for our spending. And lastly, we have the policy around borrowing to ensure that when we do borrow, we apply it productively. And even before then, ensuring that we have terms that are favorable to the country and not putting our limited resources at risk because of various risks and terms that we seem to always get into. Overall, that national fiscal policy has an objective of ensuring fair taxation, ensuring that we have responsible spending, as well as sustainable borrowing. So overall, these are some of the developments and the status of our work as we speak.
So thank you for that. I mean, every time we have you on the program, you have a lot of updates. But what is the next implementation we can expect? Maybe for some of those reforms that you say have gone through the processes, what's the next one we should expect?
Yes. So that the next big one we should expect, I'll probably even say this is one of the most important work we have been doing, spent about a little over 1 year now, is we have redrafted, or let me put it differently, we have a proposal to repeal and redraft major tax laws, whether you're talking about companies' income tax, whether it's value-added tax, whether it's personal income tax, capital gains tax, stamp duties. These major taxes account for well over 90 to 95% of our revenue as a country, and we redrafted them because many of them are so old, there's no point trying to amend them. Like the stamp duty law is a law of 1939, before our independence, before the internet was invented. So we thought it's better to just draft it and say, if you have a brand new Nigeria today, what should be the ideal policy around taxation? So those laws have now been drafted. They've gone through all the stages that are necessary, including engagement with stakeholders, public and private sector, as well as with our international partners, learning from other countries. And those are now in a stage where we're only just waiting for the final approval from the Federal Executive Council. The lawmakers are currently on recess. So we want to be ready so that as soon as they resume by middle of September, we're able to present those bills to them. And we're very positive because we've been engaging with them as well, the lawmakers, I mean, that this should be able to get out of the National Assembly and being passed within a matter of 1 month to 1.5 months for the president to then assent. And we then hope to spend the rest of the year trying to build capacity, creating awareness, allowing everybody to adjust their systems where they have to. And for many of these reforms to then take effect from January 2025, which is when the people will begin to see the real impacts of the various reforms that we have been undertaking for the past 1 year or thereabouts.
Okay, we're looking forward to that. I guess that's one of the hints that the FIRS boss did tell us about a week ago, that we can expect a new form of regulation for revenue. But just before we let you go, help us to understand the import duty suspension on those staple foods. How is it supposed to work? Because I spoke to a couple of people who are at border areas. Are they supposed to be able to bring in, for instance, bags of rice into the country through the land and the water without paying duties? What does it capture?
Yes, so the idea is, of course, I think perhaps the most pressing issue for us as a country now is inflation, because inflation has a way of making the poor even poorer and has a way of reducing your purchasing power, and it just makes mystery a commonplace for the people. So it's always the priority of government to address inflation head on. So some of the announcements that have been made recently are really from the fiscal side of government policy to try and complement whatever is being done already. by the other policy arms of government. And one of that is food. If you look at the CPI, that's the Consumer Price Index, if you look at the basket, which is really, without sounding too complicated, the average Nigerian household, when they earn income, where do they spend their money? That's what the basket is really all about. And it shows that Nigerians spend more than half of their income on food. About 52%. So the major driver of inflation is food inflation, which is over 40%. So what we have seen with the latest numbers of July inflation is that we saw a moderation. Prices are still going up, but the rate at which they're going up has declined by over 120 basis points on food. And because of that decline in food inflation, we've seen deceleration in the overall inflation numbers. So that's also a confirmation of the fact that you need a lot of fiscal intervention. I'm not saying that decline is due to the fiscal intervention around waivers, because that's only just taking off now. So the impact would only be felt by the time we see the numbers for August, but even more so, the numbers for September, because there's a lead time between when you announce and implement policies and when they begin to permeate into the economy. So the idea is, if you look at that reduction in the rate of inflation increase for July, it's driven by the decline in prices of commodities like yam. We also saw the one around tomato. We saw pepper and a few others, whereas things like rice, things like beans remain very high. So you see on the list of the items on which government is granting full waiver of import duties include, brown rice. This is not for you to bring in refined rice. We want that refining to be done locally. So we also, in a way, create economic activities locally, reduce the pressure on the exchange rate to import those things. As well as we also see beans included. We see sorghum, we see millets. So those are the areas where prices remain elevated. By the time the waivers kick in, and the rates are as high as 30% on brown rice, for example, to 20% on beans. If you take that percentage off, the cost is significant. We expect to see something close to that in the retail price that people have to pay. And the way we also look at it is, if you really want to address food inflation, you don't have to open your border to all the food that you need to consume. That's why you see that list is quite few. And the idea being that if the price of yam, beans, rice, gari come down, there will be substitution effect on the other food products. So the person that would like to eat rice but cannot afford it now, they are eating yam, and yam is increasing demand and prices are going up. If the price of rice comes down, then they eat rice, and then you have less demand for yam, and the price of yam would also come down, even though you are not importing yam into the country. So that's the whole idea.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, for your time and your work. We're certainly looking forward to more implementation and, of course, the spillover effect, as you've said, in the economy and purchasing power for Nigerians, especially inflation. But thank you so much for your time, and do well done.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now, the issue of the quality of petroleum products in circulation in Nigeria is still a topic of discussion. So it's not just Dangote that is talking about this. We've been talking to Dangote on this. Now, there's also an allegation on Matrix Energy Limited. And so our energy correspondent, Lou Phillips, had a sit-down conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of Matrix Energy Limited on this.
We've been saying that as either you or the entity being responsible for the hazardous petroleum product, this time around diesel, that has flooded the Nigerian market. Are you involved in this kind of business?
Thank you so much. We're in business now for 20 years, and we have never brought in any product that is either hazardous or off-spec. And we will never do that because we love this country. And everything is not about money. Matrix Energy stands for quality, we are professional people, and we are people that we have in-depth knowledge of the market, and we've always make use of our expertise. So in doing whatever we do, we stand in for quality, we leverage on our asset, and we also leverage on our relationship with most especially our customers, who are the one that patronizes us and uses our product.
Can you help us make a sense of where the problem is and why we have this kind of conversation going on right now as regards, first of all, diesel supply, diesel distribution, diesel availability, and pricing?
I came into this industry by end of 2004. I was a banker, and the then administration, which is former President Olusegun Obasanjo, made efforts to deregulate the market. And what does deregulation mean and stand for? It gives opportunity, it moves the market from the public sector to the hand of the private sector. And we see a big opportunity there where we feel we can play. When the market is deregulated, it means it's a factor of demand and supply, willing buyer, willing seller. And since the market of diesel, which is called AGO, jet, kerosene, has been LPG fully deregulated, that is why you have seen so much progress in that market, because you've seen a lot of depots that came in across the country. You've seen a lot of investment in people buying vessels, people investing in storage facilities and all the rest, which is the best thing that has happened to the country, that today you can trade your diesel, you can trade your other deregulated product. It's a factor of your capacity, it's a factor of your ability to convince the buyers. It's a buyer's market, not actually seller's market. So you see, anybody can bring in diesel, but, government then will have DPR. DPR responsibility was to ensure that the quality of the product that comes in meets the country requirement. And now that we have NMDPRA, who are the regulators in the downstream, and we have NUPRC, who is the regulator for upstream, their primary responsibility is to license us to bring in product anywhere. As at now, in terms of the economic term, we are all feeling from M, which is import into the country. So it is the sole responsibility of NMDPRA to ensure that the standard, the specification given to all the importers, will comply with it. And in a situation whereby you bring in product that is not that, you can't even discharge that product. Yeah. You talk about why the noise now. You know that OPEC has been cutting productions, they reduce production. At times, they say they are maintaining the production. What it means is that the balance of trade, the volume of product that are being produced, probably is in excess of what the global world required. And you can see pricing, it affects pricing, it affects a lot of things. And you also notice that the world is moving away from fossil fuel to non-fossil fuel. So what you see invariably is that the demand for diesel, demand for all those things is expected to come down. And another thing I can tell you as well is that by this particular time in the country, you know, the demand and supply play a significant role in determining what the price is and what the reaction of the end users. And anytime you see the price is so high, people are very cognizant of what they do. A lot of people now don't even use diesels in their houses or even in the factory. They check it. Everybody says when you don't need it, you don't make it into use. So I don't see reason why there should be noise. The market is free, it's fully regulated. There's nobody is taking any hit. Most times you may not even make profit because the market is efficient. You have to sell what you buy, and at times you sell at a loss.
Why are you still in that business if it's not a high-sounding, mega money-making business? I mean, what's the business model that is guiding the business and involvement in diesel sales?
This is our career. This is what we do. We love doing it. We have good customers. We sell to the blue chip companies. We sell to the big construction companies in the country. There's no single construction company today that doesn't buy from us. Our stations across the Federation, we sell a lot. I know what my stations sell. I know what I sell daily. I've seen some towns that people go as far as going 1 kilometer to go and buy from us. Because why? We don't compromise on quality and we don't cheat people. Our 1 liter is 1 liter. And we love doing it. We've invested heavily. Today, Matrix has 4 vessels. We bought our first vessel in 2009. And the last 2 vessels we bought was 2017. So we have invested heavily. Our 4 vessels can carry 166,000 metric tons of product at any particular point in time. And we are one of the largest charterer of vessels in the Gulf of Guinea. So it's something we love doing. It's something that brings happiness. And I'm proud that I have a very good team. My teams, they are hardworking. They are young. Probably I'm the oldest in the industry, in the company. And it's a legacy I want to leave. Matrix is not all about selling diesel. We do other products. We are one of the few depots or few companies today that we can store all products, from LPG to PMS to AGO to Jet A1 to DPK to aviation fuel, which is the same thing as ATK. Bitumen, we store bitumen as well, and then we trade this product. So it's not all about diesel. We do other products. And diesel is one of our products that we do. And because we sell virtually everything that some companies like, we are one-stop shop for a construction company.
The country is awash with what appears like an interruption of that system, of an alternative that is in country. Do you have a problem with that?
We have no problem with that. It's our pride as a nation to be not only exporting crude, but able to export petroleum products. And it's something that we will support at any point in time. We have supported 1 or 2 refineries, and we don't talk, because some of the tests we do, there are confidentiality around it. But I can tell you, we are one of the people that are working to make sure that this country is able to refine and supply what is required locally. And we will do that, and we'll continue to work until this is achieved.
I'm going to do something a bit strange. I'm going to ask you to speak directly to this camera and tell Nigerians that you don't have a problem with any business disruption that gives Nigerians better value.
We are 100% in support of whatever is required for us as a nation to be self-sufficient in whatever we do. It's not only on petroleum products. There are other things that is a better country. So we will never work with whoever that want to sabotage or create an environment for the country that is unconducive for investors and new investment to come into the country.
You are absolving yourself right now of any wrongdoing.
We don't do business only here. Today we are registered and we do business with the international oil companies. We do business with the big trading company and even with the national oil companies, not only here. We know what it takes. Compliance is key to us. We have no reason or justification for us to engage in those kind of practices. We have a strong quality assurance department. We have a robust lab. We are very hard when it comes to quality assurance. We stand for integrity and we are very professional in what we do. It's not only oil we sell. For people that in agriculture, they know our fertilizer is well sought out for. We cannot even meet demand. People look for our fertilizer. If you take our fertilizer to anywhere in the world to test, you know what if you say it's 20-10-10 is 20-10-10. Our 50 kg is 50 kg. It says Matrix is a strong brand today. we sell at premium because we don't disappoint, and we don't have any history. It's something you can confirm. None of our stations, even when with all this blackmail, cheap blackmail, our sales has even gone up. That is the honest truth. It's a blessing for us, because people that don't buy from us before, they buy from us. I have received several emails from people, and we even get more inquiry from people now on how we can supply them. We don't get involved. You can go to any of our stations or go to our depot. Is free. NMDPRA, they are doing a good job, and we should not allow people to interfere and to scare the regulators in doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, ensuring that Nigerians only use quality petroleum products, the job of the NMDPRA, and of course, Matrix had to respond to that. Now, let's look at the market numbers before we head back to Sunrise Daily Studios. It was a red week last week for the NGX, in spite of some positive movement in between, especially intraday. We had a lot of intraday green trade, but at the close of the trade last week, the market dropped 1.16%. And then the equities cap closed at 55 trillion naira. You know, there was a point we even got down to 54 trillion naira, but thankfully we regained. The activity chart was mostly red. Just volume was able to scale through with a 177% increase on volume compared to the previous week. Volume and deals were in the red. Sectors, we see banking survived it, was in the green, but consumer goods, industrial goods, because of Dangote Cement, consumer goods was down almost 5%. Insurance was in the green. Oil and gas also recovered for the week. So we'll give you fresh intraday numbers during Business Incorporated. That's at 1 p.m. I'll be back. I'll be with Aneti Edet. I'll take you around the world of business in 55 minutes. Let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.
Welcome back. Yes, and we've got Dr. Omar Benga here with us. He's a former CEO of National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP, former coordinator, National Social Investment Program, NSIP, former SSG to the Adamawa State Government. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today, sir.
Former.
I'm currently in the studio with us.
Yes, indeed. But you know, I mean, at times like this, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel, I mean, that like lots of Nigerians that, oh dear, they hope that the prices of goods haven't gone up again. You don't know what to expect, all of those things. And so that's why we look at some of these people who are supposed to be in those positions to make sure that doesn't happen. What are they doing? Do they understand the task that they're saddled with? What about the CNC himself? Is he keeping them on their toes to ensure that they do what they were there to do? It's a year after they've been appointed. So from what you've seen, what do you make of it?
Well, thank you very much. Luckily for me, you didn't introduce me as former headmaster to government. So I've actually gauged all this. But yeah, life in this country is difficult and also not difficult. In the same, what I mean by that is, yes, when people wake up in the morning, as you said, you're just waiting for some difficulty to hit you. And for me, I now cook. I am now the cook of the house, yes. When I wake up in the morning, I prepare breakfast for my wife before she goes to work. I love that. At least I'm happy. You know what I mean? And so I don't care about whether prices are going up or not. I've got a job. Very nice. Anyway,
Getting paid for this job that you're doing.
Happiness is
Because of the happiness.
Yes. But you see, our country, government connected to the social system, the people, in my opinion, has three major big issues. And all the work we do, in my opinion, if you don't gauge it to those points to see whether they're coming down or not, then everything we're doing is just in the air. You see, one, our country is bedeviled by corruption. It's just everywhere. Even your gate man, who you are paying, you've employed him, you've given him the little house near your gate. When you are leaving, he will say, Chamberlain, ground never level, he's expecting something from you. you know. So he wants to milk you despite the fact that you are the one paid. That is how close it can go to you. 2, poverty is very, very high. We're not talking about you have 2 cars and I have 1. We're talking about poverty of people not having food to eat. Even if they have, it's not balanced. We're talking about people, who live in houses that are not particularly habitable. We're talking about people who have children that cannot go to school, and so on and so forth. This kind of poverty in this country is very, very high. 3, and most importantly, is that we have a challenge with our youth. Youth unemployment is very high. Whether you are educated or non-educated, does not matter. So when you mix these 3, whether you are Minister of Foreign Affairs, whether you're Minister of Agriculture, whether you're Minister of Gas or whatever, if what you do does not affect these things that affect people, then you have to rejig if you're a leader in Nigeria. And that goes to the highest level. So it's sad to the extent that this great country that literally has everything that God has designed to make a human being comfortable is in this country. Our weather ranges from desert, dry, down to rainforest. We have solid minerals everywhere. We have fresh water flooding people. You go to Kebbi today, the flood is carrying people's villages and cows and everything. Give them 2 months, then they don't have water to drink. From plentiful to totally dry. It's just that we just wait. In fact, every year we just wait for flood to come and take some few people and animals. We complain a bit and then we say there's no water to drink. We don't do anything about it. You know what I mean? So this is the rhythm of government. Normally has to be very, very technical, in my opinion. You cannot just take a position and expect things to happen. It doesn't rain from the sky. It cannot sprout from the soil. You have to think. Hey, I am Minister of Education. I'm Minister of Agriculture. How do I get these women that are actually selling bitter leaf and so on and so forth, selling more bitter leaf? I don't have to concentrate on the rice and maize and all that. How do I get these Fulani women that are milking goats and so to sell more milk? This is very difficult. It's not easy, but that has to be done. So literally the summary is, yes, we have big challenges, but we also have solutions just near our feet. The gap is, are we ready to look at the solutions and in a very, very committed, nationalistic and patriotic way?
Why will we not be ready to look at solutions?
Well, you see, it's tough. There are times when you just think because this guy is a leader, he knows it all. No, he doesn't.
When you say we, who are you talking about?
The Nigerians. We generally in Nigeria.
What other people you're referring
to? I think both. I think if you're a leader and you are in court and desiring for change, you literally become a revolutionary. You are shouting at civil servants, you are meeting everywhere, you are visiting communities and so on and so forth. And people will think that you are crazy. But that is the only way you can dig into these things. And unfortunately, we don't do it as vigorously as we should.
I mean, you just mentioned right now that the solutions are at our fingertips. It's just right there. I remember you from the NSIP and all the work that you had to do in the States. But there's a conversation that's going on right now when it comes to the government trying to get us out of the situation that we're in. The line between palliatives and actual development. Palliatives that actually mean something, that actually cushion the impact of these issues, and then the development that is necessary for long-term growth of the Nigerian people. Where would you rate the Tinubu administration in that regard? Are they doing what can lift people out of poverty?
Well, I think palliatives will never, ever develop you. That's just the principle. Palliative is if you just pop out of a corner and you see a woman sitting down there, the natural thing is you pick the woman up and you try to sit and you talk to the woman. Just picking and talking to the woman will not change her life drastically. You have to do something extra. So palliative is in the category of what I call immediate actions to demonstrate that you mean business. But instantly, you have to follow it up. Look, the most vibrant sector of our economy in this country, by my estimation, is the informal sector. I don't know about you, but my mother knows how to extract oil out of groundnuts. She could be a very, very rich woman, but she only gets 1 mudu of groundnuts once a month, if at all. She knows how to smoke fish. She knows how to make yogurt. She can fry nice puff and bean cakes. Now, so is literally 60 to 70% of mothers in this country. This sector should be the sector to inject. The Minister of ICT must know them and what the data should be readily available. The Minister of Commerce and Industry must be designing credit that can reach these people to power them so that they can be able to repair and be prosperous. The Minister of Education will look at these women to see that if their children are there, how do their children get access to education so that, everybody, in my opinion, should look at that sector to start with. And when you kickstart it, the vibrance of that sector will ensure that food in your community will be lower, will be readily available and cheap. Two, because nobody in industry generally, I am buying oil from someone, I'm buying flour from someone, I'm buying, dawa from somewhere to make that small soup that I can sell. That creates social cohesion. It's part of the peace generation because I'm buying kerosene from you. There's no way I can come and destroy your shed because I will not get kerosene. This is just how communities work. But this sector is a complex sector.
Is it being ignored?
I don't think if we were working very hard to spark this sector, we will not be where we are now. That is just it. I'm not saying that we are not doing it, but maybe we are not doing it correctly. We're not doing it on time. I remember Anchor Borers, when we were there, we were doing Anchor Borers. I sat somewhere radically and I said to the Bank of Agriculture, look, the farmers have a calendar. I will plant here and they will grow. I'll apply fertilizer because I'm depending on rain. You must have calendar of releasing funds to align with this. So when you want to plow already, you have the money. When you want to plant, but how come your calendar to release funds is actually after all the farmer has harvested? It will never work. Government will feel like, we've got a fantastic credit platform to cater for poor people, but it is not aligned, and therefore it misses. So when you give the farmer fertilizer when he doesn't need it, the only thing is for him to sell it. And then you come complaining, these poor people, you give them fertilizer, they're selling it, useless people. So this is the technicalities about all these things.
Is it that the people who engineer such misalignments are not aware? For instance, I would assume that anyone who is going to help the federal government to disburse fertilizers to farmers would be someone who understands agriculture and would know exactly what to do, when and how.
Well, that's the theory. In practice, that is not so.
Are they then for political?
I think there are politics everywhere. In politics can make you even elect somebody who does not deserve to be elected. Politics can actually push you to go through the courts to get a leader that you don't deserve. Appointment politically can make you get somebody who doesn't know the sector very well. You can see somebody who has been put onto a very highly technical role and he doesn't.
But Doctor, the Ministry of Agri, if you look at the Minister and the Minister of State, for instance, the Minister of State for Agri, he's been in that sector before he became a senator and now went back to that place. And now they tell us that they're distributing fertilizers and then they're working on dry season farming. So we can have 24, what was that word? I mean, all
year-round farming season.
That kind of speaks to them adjusting to what you have just suggested, as opposed to before when they were not, if they were, we didn't know, if they were planning for all year-round farming. So are they not addressing the issues that you raised here?
Well, you see, the thing is, it's not as easy as that. I'll give just an example with the dry season. Dry season farming literally means irrigation. Irrigation means you have a body of water. You must have the technique of moving the water to the farm, spreading it when the crops require, in addition to all the weeding and fertilizer and everything. And then later you bring equipment and so on and so forth. So this is very complex, but I understand, even if you don't know anything, even if you are not an agriculturalist, if you're a pure street politician and you are put on that, the one thing that will be expected of you is that you need to calm down and become an administrator now. You know how to speak to your permanent secretary. You know how to put your directors together. You need how to think and say, look, every day we're going to meet here at 8 o'clock and we will not leave here until we find out on exactly how does Bank of Agriculture deliver these loans to the farmers in Akwa Ibom, in Kaduna, in Bayelsa, in Sokoto and so on and so forth. I am not going to go anywhere. But if you sit and you believe that someone somewhere knows it all and they will just report to you, you will get the bad report, beautiful reports with pictures and everything, but certainly when the farms are not working, you know that it's not working. There's no magic about it. Once food is scarce, the prices of food is going high, it's a demand and supply thing. You should accept that certain things that you have done are wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the thing is that for us, sometimes you see problems and you still say that you're doing very well. It doesn't add up. These are simple
in many ways, that's why many Nigerians don't believe it when you say you're doing this, you're doing that. They can't see it, you know. But I want to be able to move to another set of ministers. The defense ministers, the duo of Matawale and the former Jigawa state governor. You know, earlier Chamberlain was saying there's knocks and kudos. Okay, so it's up and down. It's up and down. It's like you take a step forward. Oh, we've killed so and so number of terrorists in so and so place. Then a kidnapping happens the next day, and it will be children. Then we now don't know how to measure how they're performing. What do you make of those ministers and how they're handling the security situation in the country?
I think the mother of all engagement of performance actually comes to what are you analyzing? There's no way you can analyze anything without data. I'm sorry. You know, today, the Minister of Defense or Minister of State of Defense alone cannot handle the insecurity by themselves. In fact, as far as the Ministry of Economy, Communication and Digital Economy, as far as you may think he is from insecurity, he probably is the key person. You must know all the data about the prisons. Every prisoner that has entered prison must have their own biodata on some kind of database, so that if you catch him again, you know exactly, hey, you were in Kuje before, and how come that you are out killing people again, even if they are dead. When they die, you carry their fingers, you do like you say, I have killed this man, he was in Kuje 3 times. So data on everything is the way to go. That is why the ICT, information, communication, and now even with entertainment technology is the key. If we're not sharp on it, all these things will continue happening, and you will think it's ministers that are not doing it.
You know, you just raised an issue that is very pertinent. You talked about data while talking about insecurity. That speaks, and you mentioned the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy. And you talked about prisons, which is under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. So it speaks to collaboration.
Yes.
Do you see that happening?
Well, you know, so that ministers don't say, oh, see, Dr. Bill is supposed to be my friend. And he said, no. You see, it's a system. I told you initially that you have poverty, insecurity, and corruption as key things. What if we were to have zero poverty in this country? We will not be talking like this. It doesn't matter what the ministers are saying. Our poverty is gone, and we're all fairly prosperous and we're working. But it's a problem. If we were to have no insecurity problem, I would have been traveling to Yola by car. I'll go and buy potatoes in Jos. I will pass, I'll buy rice in Gombe. And when I get to Yola, I'll give it to my family easily. But I can't easily do that because insecurity is a problem. So there's a problem. If corruption was not very endemic, I know if you give me a contract, I don't have to listen to you or whatever. I'll just go and deliver and go. So the fact that you have these problems, it's us that has to reflect on ourselves. If I were a minister of, I don't know, of labor, I know that I have to talk to all the other ministers to make sure that my mandate is actually implemented well. And I'll give you a short scenario if you have time. When I was DG NOTAP, NOTAP is an intellectual property or technology transfer office of Nigeria. It has a lot of implication on international intellectual property. But the other 2 or 3 intellectual property institutions are actually in the Ministry of Trade and Investment and Ministry of Justice. Trademark office is in the Ministry of Investment. Patent and industry is in the Ministry of Investment. But copyright is in the Ministry of Justice. There's no way I can enjoy my job without this. So I told my guys, why are this? Who is there at that place? He said, he's a very difficult man. I said, no matter how he's difficult, the worst he can do is to say, get out of my office. And that is not going to reduce it. So I went, Adeopo was there, spilled form, the secretary didn't know who I was. Say, yes. I said, I want to see DG. No, he's in a meeting. I said, please tell him that my mother is ill and she will die if I don't see him. So I filled a form there quickly. Then he saw Dr. Bini. He said, hey, my brother, how are you? I said, no, to leave this, my brother, my brother. You are the DG of Copyright Commission. I'm DG of NOTAP. If we don't work together, the IP of Nigeria will not be very strong. But from today, every event you do, please invite me. Every event I do, I'll invite you. If you think there's something I can do, call me. This is my number. So I carried him. There was a woman then as the director of the trademark, patent, and whatever in Ministry of Investment. They probably were not in talking terms because of the plan. You know, we always like our territory. So we went together. The guy said, no, leave the woman now. The mama is very hot. I said, what? Wait. If she kicks us out, we'll go and talk on TV that she kicks us out. So we went there. We filled the form. She saw our name. She popped out herself. And we sat down, three of us. And I said, look, we're the barbars of intellectual property in this country. We have to help the universities to create intellectual property. You know how licensing works. We have to work the licensing so that Nigerian young people can get jobs using Nigerian intellect and so on. That was how we created an environment and we were talking to each other. But before, this is my mandate, this is my money, this is my staff, don't touch it. So
it goes back to the question whether or not it is happening.
Now, yes. Is that, do you see that handshake going on right now?
Well, I think, you see, again, I bring you back to the targets. Once you see the targets are not going down, the handshake is not working. Look, in natural ways, once it is working, it's working. If your car is working, it has fuel, you'll come to work.
There's a sector, there's a ministry that seems to be working. Power.
Yes.
We have a lot of electricity.
I agree with you totally.
Yes, we have a lot of electricity now, but many people can't afford it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of electricity people can't afford. Recently, a lot of Nigerians were upgraded. A lot of Nigerians in the FCT were upgraded to Band A. And then they started calling us and sending us messages. We told them, welcome. Remove your slippers at the door, come inside. Let us understand what is going on with you, because a lot of us have been going through it for a very long time. A lot of electricity out there, but people can't afford it. What do you make of that dynamic? Because when you talk to people from that ministry, they tell you, you said you wanted electricity. And this is the cost now of electricity. If you cannot pay it, turn off your lights. You know, what do you make of that situation?
It's a case of POS and ATMs working very well. Everyone will.
Everyone POS works better than ATM.
Listen, whatever. So you see, we are very innovative and creative to come up with how to spend money, but very few people are actually working on how to create the money. So so that's what I give you the scenario of POS and whatever. Once you see globally, go around everywhere on earth. Every country that manages to break through on the development threshold, three things are normally subsidized to make sure that it powers your economy. Number one, food. I have worked on a farm as a manager in the United Kingdom based on my profession. There is something called set aside. They will even pay you to put your farm, don't grow anything, because the system is responding to glut or whatever. They must make sure they stabilize it. So they pay you for not farming. Two, you see, energy is what powers everything. There is no way you can have epileptic reach of energy to people in terms of power, and you expect productivity. You know, there are many in the states when people say, oh, my governor is trying very well, we have power. It's just domestic. It's just light, you know, to see where you're going. You can't. In my hometown, I remember when we were in government, I was telling my governor, he puts generators everywhere and the streets are very, very bright and nice. I said, sir, have you noticed something? He said, no. I said, from 9 o'clock, everybody has gone to sleep. And the streets are very nice and very bright. Our objective is to say that when it is cooler at night, you should see the carpenters working. You should see the welders working. Yeah. You should see the painters mixing paint, so that the following morning, they will do things that doesn't need electricity. But at night when electricity is available, they are working. That is where your job creation is. That is where your solution for poverty. But when you see people sleeping, we should start rethinking again. So in exactly the same way, countries that succeed make sure that power, you don't play with it. And finally, you know, the subsidy on fuel that has been removed. It was good. Not that it was not good. It's just a lot of people who are complaining, thinking that corruption has crept into it to the extent that there are other people who are benefiting. But now we know who has benefited.
Doctor, let me just ask this one question about communication.
Yeah.
There's the Ministry of Information and National Orientation.
Yeah.
What would be your assessment of that particular sector? Because people still have this opinion, this position that communicating government policies is still a major problem.
I think it is. Communication generally is the key issue for literally all government systems. No matter how you work, no matter how perfect you do your job, if you cannot communicate appropriately to people, you will be tagged as not working. I remember at NSIP, one of the biggest, when they go to see us, they listen to me or any other person say, oh, this is what we are doing in school feeding. We've reached that. And they say, no, you are not going. And say, what is the name of your village? They'll say, my Karanamoda, I'll just go Karanamoda, you see the primary school. Do you know these primary schools in Karanamoda? You say, oh, yeah. Yes. The name of the headmaster is so. Yes. They have 2,000 children there. And we fed yesterday. These are the pictures. We have the system that is even downloading pictures every day, but we fail to communicate and people thought we were not doing it. So communication is key. But again, you have to jump out of the box. Communication by just going to TV and sit down and tell people this is happening. People will take it as just a government hype. You know, I remember Jerry Gana used to do what you call assessment or whatever. He was always on the run, you know, running to state government, meeting with governors, going to farms, going to factories, and so on and so forth. And that day, because he's Minister of Information, you will at least see it on NTA. They are tracking the minister, and you can see it. And people liked him. You know what I mean? Just for doing that. And people got a lot of information of things that are happening. If you know the digital things that are happening in this country, in terms of trying to ginger young people to do one or two things, it's huge. And people don't know. You know? So jumping out of the box, to look for it and disseminate it appropriately must be a reform.
You know, you always say that don't hire people you can't fire. So if you were the president,
yes,
who would you tell, please take a bow and go?
Out of these ministers, I probably will have a minister's performance measuring meter. So each of my ministers will come and sit and I'll wire him up. And I'll type some few keywords and it will tell me whether he's above, below, or somewhere. If he's below, I'll fire him. Unfortunately, I don't know whether the president has that meter or not. I don't have that meter.
Okay, so there you go. If you expect them to name one minister, that's your answer right there. Dr. Omar Brenda, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
All right, I think we've got something from Festus. Can you find it?
Well, yes, Festus Akimboyewa says, Nigeria is blessed with gas in abundance. There are massive opportunities in gas all over the world. FG must take advantage of these opportunities and work with our private sector to use gas to grow our economy and make Nigeria a world-leading gas-producing nation.
All right, so there you go. That wraps it up today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Oso. Goodbye.
Have a great week ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Bye for now.